While we all are always interested to know which 11 players are starting the game for our favourite team, what we seem to forget is that those who don't start games aren't just there to fill up the numbers. Benchwarmers aren't necessarily players who are not part of a manager's plans. In fact, elite managers have varying tactics for their substitutes, since these players can change the outcome of a game based on their attributes. From scoring at the death to testing tired defenders to shore up the defense, substitutes are as important as the starting 11. So today we're going to discuss some of the greatest substitutes in the game's history and how they changed the outcome of a game in very few minutes. Georginio Wijnaldum, Liverpool vs Barcelona. We start off with the Netherlands international, who was at the heart of one of the greatest comebacks in Champions League history. In 2019, Liverpool were 3-0 down in the first leg of the semi-final against the mighty Barcelona. It would have been crazy to think that the Reds would recover from such a drubbing. However, that's the beauty of football. Things can change any time. At halftime, Jurgen Klopp was forced into a substitution following an injury to Andy Robertson. In came Wijnaldum, whose introduction turned the game on its head. The Dutchman scored 2 goals inside 122 seconds and masterminded a comeback for the ages. But guess what, fellas? This wasn't even the craziest impact sub-stories ever. Take for example the golf-addicted Gareth Bale, who got Real Madrid out of the woods against Liverpool in the 2018 Champions League final. The Welsh winger was not happy with Zinedine Zidane, who decided to drop him from the starting 11 in place of Isco. However, Bale replaced the Spaniard in the 61st minute. Minutes into his introduction, Bale scored one of the greatest goals in the competition's history and then added another one to ensure a 3-1 win for his team. No matter what Madrid fans have to say about him, Gareth Bale was one of the greatest clutch players in the club's history, even though he would rather represent the Spanish giants on the golf course. Now, it is very rare for Bayern Munich to struggle against a team like Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. But then again, stranger things have happened, like Lukaku professing his love for Inter Milan before flirting with their bitter rivals Juventus, only to be shipped out to AS Roma. You get the point. So Munich were 1-0 down in 2015. Pep Guardiola for some reason had decided to bench Robert Lewandowski, but the Spaniard understood that you cannot tinker too much and in the 60th minute introduced him to devastating effect. By the end of 90 minutes, the Polish striker had scored 5 goals in 8 minutes and 59 seconds. Imagine if he had started the game. Okay, so let's move on to a very rare occasion, because it is unlikely to see Lionel Messi warming the bench. But then again, for a player who has achieved everything on the pitch, it is only right to see him show how good of an impact sub he can be. And Messi did that quite well against Real Betis in 2013. With the game locked at 2-2, Messi came on as a halftime sub and scored twice to ensure Barca ended the game on 3 points, and another 3 away from yet another La Liga title. But Messi has also been on the receiving end of a substitute taking all the glory. Very few players will ever be able to score a goal that crowns their team world champions, and even fewer would get a chance to do that in extra time. But that is exactly what Mario Götze did for Germany in the 2014 World Cup final against Argentina. The game was scoreless, and Götze replaced Miroslav Klose in injury time. In the 113th minute, the German scored what is still the biggest goal of his career. End result, Messi only wistfully looked at a trophy that he will get his hands on almost 10 years later. Ida also got himself some hero vibes at the Euro 2016 final against France. In the 25th minute, Cristiano Ronaldo was forced into returning to the bench due to injury, which added a lot of pressure on his teammates. Portugal were already the underdogs in the final, so there weren't much expectations. Late in the second half, Ida was introduced in place of Renato Sanchez, and the striker had very little time to make an impact. However, he made one hell of an impact by scoring in the 109th minute. Portugal lifted the Henry de Launay trophy for the first time ever, and in the process, Ida cemented his own legacy. There are so many impact subs in the game's history that a 10-minute video would never do any justice. In fact, wait till you find out about the greatest impact subs of all time. But before that, let's talk about another great player who very rarely played as a sub. In 2016, Francesco Totti endeared himself to Romans further by coming off the bench to bring his team back from a 1-goal deficit. The eternal captain scored 2 goals to ensure that the Giallorossi was still in the hunt for a Champions League place. But Totti's achievement pales in comparison to that of Giuliano Belletti, who was the unlikely hero for Barcelona in the 2006 Champions League final against Arsenal. The Brazilian replaced Oliga in the 71st minute and with 9 minutes left on the clock, scored the winning goal to hand the Catalan Giants another Champions League trophy. His celebration? Iconic. Hey guys, if you like our work, remember to subscribe to our channel, because we will keep cooking some amazing content for you on a regular basis. Okay, the next one is very much unheard of because we're living in 2023, but that still doesn't discount its significance. In the 1997 Champions League final, Borussia Dortmund were up against it. They faced Juventus, who were on the rise. BVB, who were the outsiders against a team that had won the competition a year ago. However, the Germans took a 2-0 lead, only to see it slashed in half by Alessandro Del Piero. Young Lars Ricken was patiently waiting for his opportunity as Juventus laid siege on the Dortmund goal. And then, in the 70th minute, he was brought on. Ricken didn't take long to make his mark. 16 seconds after his introduction, the teenager bent a right-footed shot after a great first touch. Juventus goalkeeper Angelo Peruzzi could only watch the ball sail past him. To this day, the goal remains the quickest substitute goal in a Champions League final. Ronaldo scored a winning goal against Barcelona in the 2017 Spanish Super Cup. The most interesting thing about the goal was that the Portugal great did that as a substitute. The game was 1-1 at the time of his introduction. The goal itself was a thing of beauty, and after beating Marc-Andre ter Stegen, Ronaldo took off his shirt and held it up for everyone at Camp Nou to see. Of course, he was sent off moments later, and even pushed the referee, but for the fleeting moment he was on the pitch, the multiple times Ballon d'Or winner had already made his mark on the game. Okay, so we promised you the greatest substitute in history, and we can tell you about that player in hints. He's Norwegian, his last name is difficult to spell, and he was called the baby-faced assassin. And yes, you guessed it right. We're talking about former Manchester United striker Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. During his time at Old Trafford, Solskjaer rarely got a chance to start games, and that was because Sir Alex Ferguson saw a skill in him that is still a rare commodity. Solskjaer was simply too good coming off the bench, and never needed to find his rhythm to get the job done. Solskjaer once scored 4 goals coming off the bench, and throughout his career, he scored a lot of clutch goals. However, no goal would come closer to the one that made United the first English team to win a European treble. It was the Champions League final of 1999 at Camp Nou. United were 1-0 down against Bayern Munich with just a couple of minutes left on the clock. With 23 minutes left, Ferguson brought on Teddy Sheringham. 14 minutes later, Solskjaer came on for Andy Cole. Basically, this was the greatest Scotsman throwing the kitchen sink at the Germans. In the first minute of added time, Sheringham scored the equaliser to at least give his team some hope of taking the game to extra time. But then there was a corner kick. David Beckham whipped in a delightful cross, which was flicked quite randomly by Sheringham. However, it was as if Solskjaer saw everything happen before it happened. The Norwegian instinctively struck out his right leg to guide the ball into the roof of the net. The iconic knee slide became part of the club's folklore, and on this day, everyone found out that you can never count United out as long as they have the Norwegian on their side. So guys, these were some of the greatest impact subs in the game's history. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and before we go, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you always know when something cool happens on your cell phone.